you can start.
Hi, Marcia. Mr. Spurgeon, you hung in there.
Glad to be here.
You know, if that Mr. Labutus hadn't talked so much, we could have done this before council. You know that, right? It's good to see you back, Mark. Just kidding. You feeling okay?
Yes, feeling well.
Great.
Feeling well. Doing well.
I don't know about everybody else, but I think it'll be real good to see everybody in 2 weeks.
Yes.
In person.
Do we have a plan as far as capacity and how that's all going to be handled? Like, you know, if we had another turnout, I mean, obviously it's a little easier to join via Zoom than it is to show up at council, but
Yes, we have a plan.
Tonight would have been a problem in chambers.
We have a plan. I just don't know what it is exactly yet, but we'll have a plan.
Okay.
I assume that all of the seating is still marked off as it was previously for distancing within chambers.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Well, last time I was there, it was.
Okay, all right, thank you.
It was about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we've been having zoning meetings in there and it's worked out pretty good. So it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
I really want to revisit the instructions you had provided to everybody as far as when to, you know, getting to your seat and all that. Sorry, Ryan, didn't mean to interrupt you there.
You're okay. Spencer, just let me know when you're ready to roll.
You can go, Ryan.
Okay. Okay, it is 7:53. We'll call this Personnel Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Ryan Bubb, Jonathan Lang, Mark Labutus, Dee Hall, and Sean Fennell. There's 2 items on the agenda this evening. First item is consider ordinance 20-30, an ordinance amending the position, classification, pay range, and department authorization tables of the City of Newark Department of Service, Division of Parks and Cemetery by creating the additional position of grounds maintenance worker and setting the compensation therefore. Director Spurgeon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. The piece before you seeks your support. The appointing authority believes, and I agree, it does serve the greater good of our community to add this additional asset in the Department of Public Service, Division of Parks and Cemetery. I believe a cursory review tour of our city would show the significant commitment the administration has shown towards our green space and certainly the hallowed grounds, which are cemetery. And for these reasons, I urge your support.
Thank you. And just for clarification, I don't know if Mr. Rhodes is on, but this money is going to be realized through temporary service funds, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair. And I believe the director plans next year as well as part of a budgetary consideration to fund it fully.
Okay.
But it is the intention of the administration, as I understand, to put this asset to work upon approval of the full council.
Okay. I appreciate that. Does anyone have anything they want to discuss this evening regarding this matter?
I'll offer a motion.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor by Lang. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Second by Labutus. Is there any further questions, comments regarding this matter? Okay. With that being said, all those in favor of moving this on to a full council can signify by saying aye or thumbs up. Those opposed? Okay. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, next item this evening is a discussion regarding removing ordinance 20-16A from the table. This is in reference to the municipal clerk of court's office. Clerk of courts, Marcia Phelps is here. You have the floor if you'd like to speak, ma'am.
Yes, I believe that through the emails that I've exchanged with everyone, as well as the assistance and emails from Doug Sasson, law director, there seems to be a clear message as to what needs to do, what needs to happen now, if in fact that is the will of the committee. And obviously the 2016A that was tabled probably needs to be taken off the table and then discussed or voted on, and then move on to what now is being presented as 2016C. Is that correct, Doug?
Okay.
And I'm certainly open to any questions that anybody may have.
Does anyone have any discussion regarding this ordinance here this evening before talking about taking it off the table? Mr. Lang?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I guess I'd ask Marcia if you could just kind of walk us through the changes and your rationale behind moving these positions from the current their current levels to the new levels. I know you've outlined some of that in your emails, but I think it'd just be good to kind of get that out here in the public record.
Sure. Well, let me just hit some of the bullet points because I know everybody's had a long day, and I certainly don't want to labor over it. But at the same token, I think that certainly is welcome to add that to your thoughts tonight. Some of the bullet points that I listed in a summary, if you will, on September 3rd was the overwhelming staff changes that we've had in the office. We have lost several people to other city offices, the courts as well, and all of them were at a pay range that is greater than what we have currently. And with that said, it does create a void in our office. When you have senior employees trained that move to other departments and or the courts, for a greater pay, you can't blame them. That is their right and their privilege. But that said, to me, I need to do something. I need to look at this. I need to start considering what can I do to secure the trained staff that we still have left and those that are coming on board, not to also do the same in the future. So that warranted my review of the salaries. Another thing that I pointed out was some of the job duties. I don't want to labor over that, but I think everybody should be aware that the job duties of deputy clerks in our office is subject to many different kind of variables. We serve a vast majority of people, and some of which are harder to serve than others. And we have never closed because access to justice cannot close. Unlike some of the other departments in the building that have been able to either work remote or, come in very rarely, we have been there every day. Now, during the early weeks of the pandemic, I did split the staff 1 week on, 1 week off. I did that because protecting the security of those individuals and, with the unknown if somebody would be exposed. And I had to be able to have, the office be able to continue to work. Recently, Muskingum, one of the Muskingum County Court clerk's offices had to close for 2 weeks because somebody tested positive. And when that happens, you have to bring people in that is not familiar with how to process a case, how to collect, on the cases that are outstanding. There's just a lot of void when you would have to do that. So we've done everything we can to, even though we've come back full staff, and we did that June 1st, and back to full court, effective June 1st, except for jury trials, and we have since begun those again. it is difficult and trying, but we've retrofitted the office as best we can, thanks to Service Director Rhodes' assistance, and some of the funds that we were able to get in our own budget. Some of the things that they deal with is, warrants being issued, warrants being recalled. That affects people's lives if something's amiss, and trained people need to be able to do that. And that's something that happens when we lose trained people. It's very trying to, not only make sure they understand the value and importance of the liability that could occur, but also to, put in place methods for monitoring those are being done appropriately. Commitments for incarcerated defendants, as well as the release of license forfeitures. Sometimes we deal with people that in court, they stay composed, but when they come out of court into our office, they tend to show their a different side of them. And our deputy clerks are subject to all of that. When I looked at the position that I'm also asking or have been asking for in creating a new position for a deputy clerk IT, that was with the anticipation of and knowing that we will be either upgrading or converting. Currently, we're a J-based system. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but we need to be SQL, and our database or our case management system needs to be changed. And in doing so, we have almost 65 users, around 66 users. Everybody has to be knowledgeable about how to access our case management system. And in doing that, we need people that can help with that software side of things, not so much the hardware, but the software. Certainly a company that we would contract with would be there for the hardware and for some limited training, but not the detail that we're going to need. As I reviewed the budget, and I shared with you some information from the budget, and I gave you not only our spreadsheet, but also the actual documentation that comes from the city auditor's office. It will reflect where we do take in an adequate amount of money, and our budget dollars, what our expenses are, is less than what we take in. That's a factor of consideration. Then I was asked to do a review of salaries, meaning that I needed to look at the internal salaries, as I've already mentioned, as well as comparing it to other municipal courts throughout the Central Ohio area and beyond. Anybody that would respond is who I put that information out, to. And I shared with you in the second document the review of that salary study, if you will. May not be in the professional sense that a consultant would have done, but it's the data nonetheless, and it's accurate. And then, of course, I shared with you the 5th Appellate Court District opinion, wherein the municipal court clerk has the right to hire and set salary. And that was basically the points that I covered with everybody in the documents that I sent out. And the second email that I sent had the actual copies of not only the information from the New York City Auditor's Office, but also those job descriptions and ranges, and then the salaries from other municipal courts. Is there anything else you need me to add?
Jonathan, if you want to follow up, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that, Marcia. Appreciate the work that you did and the background you provided. I guess one question I did have, and it's actually more for Director Sasson. I think it's important for everybody to understand what our prerogative, our authority here is, and what counsel you've given us as the lawyer for the city, as to city council's powers and authority in this, given what Marcia was just discussing as far as that 5th Circuit opinion.
Well, as I had indicated in emails previously, it's pretty well settled law in Ohio. It's not just in the 5th District Court of Appeals, but there are multiple Ohio Supreme Court cases on this issue as well. And it's section 1901 31H. It really gives the clerk the authority to set structure, employment structure in the department, and to set budget and salary expectations that the city is then obligated to meet. The process, as it's been interpreted by the Supreme Court, is essentially that the clerk's request comes with a presumption of reasonableness. And essentially the revised code says that if the clerk's request is reasonable, council shall meet that request. It comes with a presumption of reasonableness, which then puts the burden on the city, either the administration or council or someone, to rebut that presumption of reasonableness based on other factors. So essentially, the clerk is able to set structure, set salary, and as long as that is not unreasonable, then council has an obligation to comply with those requests. And go ahead.
And sorry if I might just follow up. Do you have any, and I don't know, you probably haven't researched this, spent your whole last couple of weeks researching it, but wasn't sure if there are any examples you can cite of like what would be something that would be considered unreasonable, or when have the court said yes, that's a reason why the council or city should not consider a particular decision from the clerk. Or
actually, to be completely honest with you, every case that's come through the Supreme Court has been ruled in favor of the clerk. And I've not read one where, in fact, I think the Mansfield case was probably the one that came closest to an analysis that the clerk's request might have been unreasonable. But all of the case law from the Supreme Court and from Ohio basically has sustained the clerk's request for budget. So there's not a lot of guidance out there that says this is what's unreasonable. Instead, it says the burden is on you. And I've not read a case where the city has met that burden to show that the clerk's request was unreasonable. I'm sure that's not helpful, but that's the best I can do.
Yeah, I mean, there's a line somewhere, right? But I get it.
Right. And essentially that line then gets, if this plays out in an adversarial fashion, that line, which is not clearly defined of what is reasonable and what is not, ultimately has to be decided by a judge.
Mr. Marmee and then Mr. Fennell. Go ahead, Doug.
Sorry about that. My space bar didn't work. Ms. Phelps indicated that the reason for the need for the increase in salaries was that she's losing personnel to other parts of the city for a higher salary. I'd like to know the number of employees in the last 3 years who have left a position in that office for a higher salary outside of the department. And I want to request that list. And was that obtained, the reason for their departure, through an exit interview, or how was that information gathered? But I would like that information.
Okay. Marcia, is that something you want to address here to Doug's comment that what he just asked? You want to address that now?
Well, I can tell you within the last year, there has, I do exit interviews. Yes. I'll answer that first. And through exit interviews, that is stated position. I can't force somebody to say something that they don't want to say or they would rather not say, but that has always been one of the points that they've made to me. The other part of your question was, how many have we lost? I don't have that off the top of my head in the last 3 years, but I can tell you within the last year, there has been 5, if not 6, that have moved on to other departments. Now, if you actually have to have that data, I can certainly provide that for you. And I would be more than glad to share that with the full committee or the members of council, whoever all needs it. And it would be through our exit discussions that I come up with that information. I also will say that there has been a couple people that have left to work from home. They have children with the homeschooling that has created some issues. And I can't blame them for wanting to do that. So, there has been some turnover for those reasons as well.
Okay. Tom, you can go ahead and proceed with your question.
Doug, did you have something to?
Did you want to?
Yeah,
you have something to say there, Doug?
I
I'm
do
sorry.
want that data. It should be clear. The HR department should be able to provide data that shows, somebody who left and then they went to a position that had greater pay. So it should be clear, and that should be able to be obtained.
Sean, you can proceed with your question.
I would like to, thank Marcia for being so thorough on all of this information that she brought forward. And at this point, I would like to offer a motion to remove ordinance 20-16 from the table. Move on to full council.
Okay, there's a motion to take 20-16 off the table by Fennell. Is there a second? Okay. One more time. Is there a second on this?
I'll go ahead and second it.
Okay. Okay. So there's a motion to take this off the table, 2016A off the, or I'm sorry, 2016 off the table by Fennell, a second by Lang. All of those in favor of taking this off the table can signify with a thumbs up. Okay, okay. So that will pass 5-0 to take this off the table. So now this is now off the table. Is there a motion to amend this as what was stated earlier to the 20-16C? Is there a motion for that?
So if I might, Ryan, before we make a motion, I don't know that everybody has seen 20-16C. Director Sasson, did you circulate that to the whole committee? I don't recall if everybody was on that email. Did everybody receive that?
I believe they did. I'm not sure that it went to full council, but it did go to every member of the committee.
I believe the only change on the 2016C, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, was just the personnel number, I think the 112 to the 107. That was the only change compared to what was sent out on Thursday. Is that correct?
And language also in paragraph 4 with regard to the information technology coordinator position. There was some confusion as to which statement of policy that employee should be under because it was a unique position. So I clarified that also in C, and the language in 20-16C essentially is cut and pasted language from a prior ordinance passed by council setting forth what benefit package this employee is under and what their vacation accrual rate would be. So it corrected the employee number and corrected the language with regard to vacation accrual.
Okay. Mr. Lang?
Yeah, and I think there was the one other change from 2016A was for the office manager position. I believe that was, it was currently at 35 and was proposed to 40 under 2016A. That I think was subsequently changed to 42 in what was 2016B, and then I think you kept that around. So I just want to make sure that was an intended change as well.
It was my comment was what changes had been made to get from B to C.
Sure.
That 42 on the chart for the office manager, that was a change to get from A to B, which everyone does have a copy of B. I think everyone has a copy of C also. But the biggest change between B and C was this vacation accrual issue and the position number from the auditor's office.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to make sure we kind of described what the amendment was, and I'll go ahead and make it.
And I think that the table, the number that was corrected with regard to the office manager, that was a typo on my part. That wasn't any change in decision or policy. When I drafted this legislation, that number 40 that was in A was merely a typo on my part.
So 42 was the original request.
42 is the original proposal, and that's the correct number. The 40 was my mistake.
I'll go ahead and offer the motion to replace 20-16A with 20-16C.
Second.
Okay, a motion to amend to 20-16C by Lang, a second by Fennell. Is there any discussion regarding this amendment? Ms. Hall?
I did not get C. I have B. I don't have C.
D. D, you did not, you say you did not get that emailed to you today?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you say you did not get that emailed to you today?
I did not get C.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that
How would you
email
pay
was
for all-
sent, but if I can follow up on it tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you. How would you pay for this? Is this in Marcia's budget or?
These funds come 80% from the clerk's budget and 20% from a court computerization fund.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Lang?
Yeah, just to clarify, Doug, you're specifically talking about the new position that Marcia seeks to create. Is that right?
All of
these positions.
Her entire department is funded 80% from the clerk. I'll let Marcia speak to it. Go ahead, Marcia.
Thank you.
No, just for point of clarification, the one IT position is 80% clerk computer fund and 20% court computer fund. The remainder of the positions has always been and will continue to be from the general fund. My point with the budget was, when you look at the revenue that is generated from the municipal court clerk's office is greater than the dollar amount that's paid into the city of Newark for the municipal court clerk's office. But that's how it's always been with the deputy, with the staff in the clerk's office. And that's how it would continue, except for one IT position. Computerization funds are specific, and the person that does computer work has to only do the computer work. But the additional position that I was asking for with the deputy clerk would be someone that does not only computer work, but also deputy clerk work, for lack of a better way to describe that.
Okay. Marcia, I know for some it's confusing. They see the pay range and the changes, and they see that doesn't always reflect what they make. Can you put a number on what these raises? You know, I think we all know that your clerk's office is getting 4 and 4 the next 3 years. Can you put a number on what this is a cost to the general fund next year? You know, I think so. People, you know, it can help them decide whether, you know, this is reasonable or not, what the actual cost is with these raises next year to the general fund.
I can do so, but I do not have that at this moment in time. Sorry.
Okay.
I did not do a spreadsheet on that, so I'd have to pull that off and get it done. And if I did have that, but obviously that's not part of anything that I've disclosed. So I apologize, but I don't. Look, here's one of the sheets that was included in with probably a 64-page, document. So when you look at the total overall, I think the greater amount that's going to be, as I see on my sheet here, is $44,553. So that would be the total amount that's greater from our current positions that we have to the added position plus the raises. And that would have been in one of your sets of documents that I sent out to you probably in the earlier part of the month.
Okay. Mr. Marmee, did you have your hand up? Did you want to say something?
Yes. I guess, yeah, I do want to know that dollar amount, because I don't think that includes the 4% increase with that. And then the other thing is, I also, since you're gathering documents, I want to see the results of those exit interviews too. That should be a matter of public record, so we should be able to get a copy of those also.
Most of those actions are not documented.
An exit interview that's not documented?
Yes,
Then-
sir, that's correct.
Okay, then it did not happen.
Yes, it did.
Well, there's no documentation. There's no proof it occurred. Can you give me the list of the people that you did then, and I'll contact them directly?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, getting back to the amendment. So, you know, there is a motion on the floor by Lang and a second by Fennell to move this to what would be I guess the corrected document, corrected ordinance of what we're speaking about tonight. Is there any further questions or comments on this? Mr. Sasson?
I'd just like to clarify, Mr. Chairman, that a copy of this ordinance 2016-C, this final version that's up for a vote right now, was sent to all members of council at 12:49 p.m. today. So double check your email.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lang, did you have something?
Just clarifying procedurally, Doug, I think I motioned to amend. We still will need a motion to send it on to full council as amended. Once amended, right? I was getting something off the table. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So there's, again, a motion on the floor to amend this to 2016-C by Lang, a second by Fennell. All those in favor of amending this to 20-16-C can signify with a thumbs up. Okay, those opposed, okay. This ordinance has been amended to 20-16-C.
Point of clarification for Mr. Lang's last question. There is a motion before this piece of legislation was tabled initially. There was a motion to adopt. So there doesn't need to be another motion, but there needs to be discussion and a vote on that motion. So the motion's already pending.
Yeah, it's of my opinion. You know, I think there's a few questions that are unanswered, and I think this committee and this council has a potential. This is a rather large decision that we have to make, you know, in terms of reasonableness that was spelled out by the law director, and especially with the general fund, a lot of the uncertainty with COVID. I'm of the belief that we might want to table this, let Marcia come back with some more direct numbers that reflect the general fund. And if Doug has some personnel questions that he wants answered, we might want to table this for a couple weeks and not rush to judgment, because again, we're facing a rather large task here. So that would be my opinion. So at least myself, I would entertain a motion to table it. If not, I will offer one. So I will offer a motion to table 20-16-C for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and second it. I do have a discussion question before we vote.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I guess the question I had, just looking at the numbers presented, Marcia, it looks like just so we're clear, so we've got, all these folks they got 4% this year, they get 4% next year, they get 4% the year after that. I think that lines up with our union contracts. And it looks like what we're talking about is anywhere from a little over 6% to for the office manager, going up to almost 11% on top of those 4% raises. So, a total of, over 20% for the office manager position. I guess maybe when we, I guess I don't know how this vote's going to go, but assuming we need to come back in 2 weeks to answer some of those other questions, I think one of the things that I'd like to understand is how the choice that's the one that stands out the most to me, because it just seems like it's the biggest jump. But there's others in here. The senior deputy clerk, I think, is upwards of 9.5% as well. Again, on top of what is going to be 12% worth of raises over the next 3 years. So just trying to understand, and maybe some of the information from the exit interviews will help too. These folks being the raises needing to be so much more than the raises that were afforded to, every other employee in the city, especially at a time when, we're anticipating next year, due to all the unemployment, that income taxes collections are going to be down. So those would be my concerns that, I guess we'll see how this goes, but that I'd hope we can try to address.
There's a motion on the floor by myself, Ryan Bubb, to table this for 2 weeks, a second by Lang. All of those in favor of moving this or in favor of tabling this for 2 weeks can signify with a thumbs up. All of those opposed? Okay. Motion to table passes 4-1. So we will be back in 2 weeks. Appreciate everyone's time. With that being said, I don't think there's any other items that we need to discuss this evening. Therefore, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.